What is up, fellow Sambarians? So, I have in the past made videos or made a video kind of overhauling the Sambar carburetor. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had no idea what I was doing. That was the first time I had taken apart a Sambar carburetor, and I figured the best way to take something apart is to film it. So when you go to put it back together, you kind of can go back and see how you did it in case you forget what you did. So with that being said, I've done this, how many carbs have I done now? Maybe five, cleaned 4 or 5 carburetors now. So I know how to do it pretty well. As far as like, if you're going to ask for specs of how much the float can move and all that stuff, I don't know. If it's working, if it looks like it's working to me, then it's good, because I'm going to be honest with you, you cannot replace any of the parts on the carburetor other than, so far, I can't tell you how long it's going to be like this, but so far you can just replace your fuel cutoff solenoid, which is that guy on the bottom. You can replace your air fuel solenoid, which is this guy on top. You can replace the piston choke. I don't know how much longer that part's going to be available, but I do have a new one just to really go in depth of replacing parts on the carburetor. So we're going to do that. The thermal valve, which is missing on this one, so I'm going to have to put a new one on this one. That's pretty much it. And gaskets. Everything else, it is what it is. If your float is out of adjustment, I don't know what to tell you, unless you can, you know what the specs are supposed to be, and you can find another carburetor and steal the parts out of that, or if you can fabricate little tiny pieces, because it's a little needle with a spring inside that allows the float to go up and down in the bowl. So again, if it's out of if it's out of specs, there's not a whole lot you can do, unless of course you're gonna make something yourself, which I don't have the capabilities of doing that because I don't have a little machine shop. So we kind of just work with what we got. And knock on wood, every carb that I've done so far has been great. So yeah, so this is another video taking it apart, being a little more thorough as to how to take things off and the best way to take things off, because there's a little bearing and a rod in the bowl, so it's best to take the bowl straight off. Instead of, in my video, I took it off like this and the thing fell out, and now I know, take the bowl off with the carburetor up so that rod and bearing doesn't fall out and you lose it, because it's literally a little BB the size of a BB, like a little tiny ball bearing. And we're going to be replacing the fuel cutoff solenoid, the accelerator pump, the piston choke, which is that guy, looks like a little spaceship, and that is this guy right here. So the best way to kind of see if it's working properly is you can push the diaphragm in, plug the top with your finger, and see if it comes out. And it's coming out, but very slowly. And if you do that with a, if you do that same, if you do that same thing with a new one, it holds. So we'll push it in. No, it's holding. So it should technically stay in place. So maybe changing, if you're having problems with your choke, cold starts and all that stuff, it might be time just to change the piston choke, or set piston choke. Yeah, air fuel solenoid, and of course the gaskets. So with all that being said, so those are the parts I'm going to be using. This is actually the first time I'm going to be replacing the piston choke set, mainly because I did notice when I got these in, you know, when you push it in and you hold your finger there, it stays. All these ones, they don't stay. They kind of slowly leak down, which I'm guessing is because the diaphragm is worn out and the choke is letting off a little bit. So again, that might cause issues with cold starts. Tools. Okay, so a great set of tools to have is a JIS hand impact with a JIS screw tip, because you do not want to strip these screws on these carburetors, and they're very, very corroded in there. I've kind of figured out that you don't necessarily need the hand impact. You can take a JIS screw driver, give it a couple taps with a ball peen, kind of breaks up the corrosion on the screw. You know, don't whack on it, just kind of give it a few taps and it will kind of break the hold. So I did realize that after. This is great to have though, just in case. You really got to get something that's not breaking free. This will definitely save your butt. But JIS, you want to have all JIS screwdrivers and such for the carburetor, because they're all JIS screws. And if you use a normal Phillips head screwdriver, you're most likely going to strip them out, and then you're going to be in trouble because you don't want to strip these screws out on the carburetors. But this was a carburetor that I picked up in Japan. It looked like it was in pretty good condition. It is an older style carburetor, probably 90, 91, maybe 92. And generally, you can tell how old it is by the top little Venturi cap chingus here. It's all, patitos are going crazy. All the caps are dimpled like that. And on later models like 90, so if you do have that, then you're probably not going to have a 2-prong thermal valve. You're probably going to have the 3-prong thermal valve, which don't break your 3-prong thermal valve because they don't make those anymore. They only make the 2-prong thermal valves, which I have, sporadically, I should say, because they're really hard to get. I'll order those things and I won't get them for 2-3 months. So they're kind of pricey, and mainly because they take forever to get. I don't know why they take so long. Mainly because parts are getting really hard for these things to come by. But here's the other cap. It's flat, so there's no dimples. This is probably a later 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98 carburetor. So, little history lesson for today. But yeah, we're going to take this apart. We're going to clean it. I have someone who wants to buy this one because if you are new or you're just a little baby watching this, you should know that I do provide overhauled carbs or clean carbs if you send me your carb. So that's what I'm doing. This guy wants to buy this one, so I'm going to clean it and put it all back together with new parts. And I also picked up a ultrasonic cleaner, bath, whatever. So I'm super stoked to try that out, because before, you know, you do have to clean them by hand. Obviously, you can't throw the whole carburetor in the bath. There's stuff on there you probably don't want to introduce to certain cleaners. But for the most part, the rest of it you can. The body's a little bit more difficult with these other diaphragms and such. But I just use a wire brush and some cleaners and literally seafoam and get all the gunk off. But it'll be nice to throw them in the bath, set it and forget it. And then hopefully it's nice and clean when we come back. So anyways, I'm not talking. Let's get to taking apart the carb. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to get the solenoids off. So get a little pair of snips. We'll cut the zip ties off, and you want to keep your area pretty clean when you're doing this, so you don't, you're not introducing a whole lot of dirt. And also pay attention to where stuff is at on the back side, or the front side, I guess, is facing the cab. You have looms that hook into your solenoid wires. So I guess there was only one. There's usually one there, zip tie, but we'll go ahead and get the solenoids out. So we'll get the air fuel solenoid out, and no need to keep the hardware because the solenoids come with new screws. So we'll just throw all that stuff out. No reason to save this stuff. Once you remove it, just get rid of it. We're gonna need to get that out of the way. So the air solenoid just kind of pulls out. That one's a little rusty, so definitely had seen better days. So, and your fuel cutoff solenoid is a 19 millimeter. So what I like to do is slip the box end slip the box end in over it. And this one gets pretty stuck, so you gotta really give that one a whack. Okay. So we'll get that solenoid out of there. So basically when power is introduced to this thing, it sucks in, and then when you let off power, it goes out, and that's what cuts fuel off, so you don't continue to kind of diesel when you turn off the carburetor. Okay, so we have our solenoids out. So now let's start with the venturi, or the top of the carburetor. So like I was saying, okay, we're still good. These screws are usually pretty stuck on there. Ugh! We're gonna see if just tapping it. Yeah, there we go. So we'll get all our screws out. And be sure to set them aside so you know where to look for them. This one holding the little rack or hose, vacuum hoses, you don't need to take that one off unless you want to take it off. It's not holding it on. Just kind of for the hoses. That one off. This one wasn't too bad, actually. I've had some that were super difficult. There's one in there. Yeah, it's all like loose. It's almost like someone already taking this one apart. So the way these things are inside, there's like a little shaft with an O-ring on it. So you got to slide it up and off that shaft with the O-ring. Ah, there we go. Yeah, it's pretty clean inside. So I wonder if someone had attempted to. Well, actually, it's not that clean. But there's our O-ring that we're going to be replacing. And I'm actually just going to take the cap off of this. And then we're going to throw this in the ultrasonic bath. So let me get the cap off. And this is the cap I'm talking about that you'll notice it might be different than yours because it's dimples. And these are on the older style carburetors. And the newer style carburetors aren't like that for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. For looks or heat. These ones are definitely thicker than the newer ones. The newer ones are thin. It's more of a thinner cap. So this will also come off, and we'll have the gasket for it. There we go. Okay, so Oh, interesting. There's actually like a plastic thing inside. That's weird. So the other ones do not have these plastic things inside, but they have these rubber seals. So we'll throw that out because we got a new one. That is just a thin little piece of aluminum. It's very light. This is interesting though. It's plastic. I don't know the significance of the plastic because the newer ones don't have that. But we'll throw it in the cleaner. Throw it in the bath. So this will set in the bath and let it clean everything. As you can see, there's little ports. These get dirty. Let's take that O-ring off of there. Got that O-ring out of there. Okay. So we'll throw this guy in the bath. Okay, so here is the part that I failed to mention how to do properly on the last video I made. So what we want to do to take the bottom off, okay? So first off, we're going to need to take the accelerator pump little arm off, which, pay attention, it's hard to see, but you got two holes on your throttle linkage here. Your accelerator pump arm goes to the closest hole to the accelerator. So just kind of remember that. Now we got to get the accelerator pump off before we take the bowl off because it's all connected. And so the trick to that is remembering the sequence of events here. So when you pull that off, you're going to lose a washer and a lock. Where'd that lock washer go? Locker and your walker. You're going to have a lock washer and a washer that's going to come out of there. So you're going to want to remember it goes lock washer, then washer, then the arm. I don't know if it makes any difference if you put it the other way around, but just put it back how it was. Okay, so we can take this guy off, which is a matter of turning it and then finagling it through the little hole there. So we'll throw that in the bath and clean it. And our accelerator pump, which feels very sticky, so probably a good time to replace that guy. Now let's take the bowl off. So this is the part we need to be a little more careful. So just remember that the back two screws have the wire looms. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've only seen this carburetor with two wire looms here for the solenoid. So I think in later models they got rid of one of them, maybe to save money, I don't know. So just remember which one came off of what. If yours does not have both, that's going to strip already, I can tell. So I'm going to use a flathead to get in there. And they're also flat and Phillips, so if it's, you know, super tight, use a flat so you don't screw up the Phillips. But just keep your screw on your little wire loom. Maybe I've just gotten stronger, so I don't need that impact anymore. Nope, that is not working. So here we go with our impact. We gotta make sure we go in the right way. There we go. Look at that. Thing works awesome. It did come in handy. And sometimes this one's just nicer to grab onto because it's thicker. No, that one's super tight too. Broke it loose. Okay, here's the part that I screwed up on last time. So when you go to take your bowl off. Take the bowl off from the bottom out, and I will show you why. And pull straight down, being very careful. All right, okay. Yeah, that O-ring has seen better days. It's very dirty in there. Very dirty in there. It's a lot of like, see that brown? It's like dust. It's bizarre. Anyways, this is why you want to take your bowl off straight down, because you have this rod, and inside you have a little BB that needs to go back. What it does, I have no idea. It does something. So it's best just to put it back. So BB and then your rod on top. And obviously the seal will get replaced with the new gaskets, so we can get that out of there. Okay, so we'll it's pretty obvious where the rod and bearing goes. It goes in the only one that has the seal around it. So we'll set that aside because we're going to put this in the bath. Let's take the accelerator pump out. Let's see. So those are just two screwsies. Usually your accelerator pump is what causes you to fall flat on your face when you're driving, because it can't keep up with the demand of fuel. So accelerator pump is one issue, is one thing to fix if you're not accelerating properly and it's kind of struggling. Okay, so then we're gonna throw this in the bath, but actually it might come off. So let's go ahead and try to take all this stuff off. It'll be an experiment. But in the meantime, here's our float. So obviously we got to check to make sure our float is, good, doesn't have crack in it or something. So it's taking on fuel, which it doesn't look like it. And this is what I mean, like it can go up only so far or down so far. If it's out of spec, I don't know what you're gonna do, but we'll go ahead and take it off. So that's pretty easy. Just, sorry if I'm holding the thing out of frame, I can't even see. You'll push this little pin out right through there. So that'll allow the pin to come out of the float, the floaty chingus. We'll just put it back in there so we don't lose it. Put that next to our weight rod bearing. Okay, so our jet is right there, which I'm just going to leave the jet in there. Here's our little needle that's, yeah, that needle is like, it's dirty. So I think I'm going to throw that in the bath because it's got some dirty stuff going on. So we'll throw that in the bath. I got a special little thingy that it can sit in so we don't lose any of those parts. I'm going to, I think, let's see here. All right, update. I didn't really film it because I wasn't sure what I was doing to try to remove this whole mechanism on the side of the carburetor, but I have it all apart. So here's just kind of the body. We'll throw this into the ultrasonic bath. It's a little tricky to get it all off. You do have to take off some most of the parts on that side to get the piston choke off. So this is what I'll show you. So if I push it in and I hold my finger there, it's still coming down. It's moving down. So I think this one is bad because the new one does not move at all. So we kind of had to take some stuff off anyways to get to that. And it's a little tiny cotter pin. I really hope they gave me a new cotter pin because I cut up the old one. Let's see. Yes, no. Does it come with a new little cotter pin? Yes, it does. So there's a baby little cotter pin in there. So that's perfect. Where did it go? There it is. So anyways, this mechanism here, if you're curious what it is it messes with the cold idle coolant runs through here and then goes into your intake manifold. And so it's a valve. Basically, it shuts off and opens. And I believe at cold startup, this valve is open to let coolant into your intake manifold. And then once it's warmed up, it closes off the valve so you don't continue to heat up the intake manifold with coolant, because you don't want to be, you know, heating up the air. You want cold air. So that's what this guy does. And then that is obviously messes with your choke. So this guy controls coolant going into the intake manifold. So it's a bit of a finagle to get it off, because you have to take that flap out to get the rod pulled through out the edge. There are some plastic spacers. So if you do go ahead and do that, take very good pictures and video of you doing it so you can make sure to put it all back together. I kind of didn't document it very well because I have two carburetors that I'm going to use as references. So I do apologize. I didn't really film that, but I didn't know if it was going to actually work. But it did. So I got it off. I want to see if we can still get these valves in Japan. I just don't know what this part is called, because I feel like if that valve isn't working, you're essentially sucking in a bunch of hot air because this thing is letting coolant go through. But anyways, we're going to throw this in the bath and get this guy super cleaned up. Super pumped on the ultrasonic bath cleaner, because it's pretty massive, pretty good size. Can't really see it because everything was extremely dirty. But I set the temp at about 70 degrees Celsius. We'll see how it goes. It's been running for about a half an hour, so we'll pull all that stuff out. And the cleaner that I'm using is ultrasonic cleaning solution for carburetor, fuel injector, and other auto parts. So I figured that was going to be the good stuff for this, but yeah, this is a 15 liter ultrasonic cleaner. So yeah, we'll see how it comes out when we're done. And then I got my air compressor there so we can blow all the parts off as soon as it's out. It's a murky mess in there. So yeah, I really hope it comes out looking perfect. So I think I'm gonna make a two-part video, just because it's getting late and I'm tired and I haven't been feeling too great, so I'm running a little low on energy. So I don't think I'm gonna put everything back together right now. So basically this was a tear down of a carburetor, part one. Part two is going to be putting it back together with all the new parts and a little reveal of how well this ultrasonic cleaner worked with cleaning these parts. So I'll just upload this for part one, and then I'll do a part two maybe tomorrow if I get some time, putting it all back together. And so if you've been in the mood to clean your carburetor or take it apart or replace parts, this is going to be super helpful. And of course, you can find all these parts in Japan in like Yahoo auctions and such. Or I do sell a lot of the parts on okgarage.com, being solenoids, the choke piston that I pointed out a million times, the accelerator pump, the gasket set, and then the gaskets that go from the carburetor to your intake manifold. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. This one was probably going to be a little long, so I do apologize, but it's going to be super helpful when you start taking your carburetor apart and how to do it. And it's not that scary. It's really not. Just be sure to pay attention to what you're doing. But cool. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on part two.